this summer, especially the Philadelphia 76ers. If they didn't get Paul George, they were very interested in trading for Brandon Ingram. And the problem when you know that, when people have reported on that, is that Brandon Ingram knows that, right? He's thinking about, well, they don't want to pay me, and they were thinking about trading me, and now I have to show up and act like everything's fine. And I think Brian's right. I think that is the biggest issue because Zion can play the center position. I mean, he can be in that spot. They got Daniel Tice. They drafted a couple of guys and young guys in that position. But I think, they've got such a collection of talent, but they're one of their top two guys now is going to be disgruntled. And I don't see a way out of this other than just paying him, which would then put them in a very precarious situation going forward with the rest of the roster.
Well, Zion can play center. The question is, can you build a functional defense with Zion Williamson at center and no traditional big man? And with Brandon Ingram and Herb Jones and DeJounte Murray in the fold and Trey Murphy III, yeah, they can switch a lot and maybe make it work. And by the way, Trey Murphy III is up for an extension. That's going to be a big deal when it happens, whenever it happens. And that's one of the reasons why keeping Brandon Ingram on a huge contract might be untenable for the Pelicans going forward. But look, Brian mentioned that 8 or 9 teams or whatever he said can't even functionally trade for Brandon Ingram if they wanted to because of the second apron and all the aprons we live with now. There's also a bunch of teams, the rebuilding teams, a lot of them are kind of looking at the draft this year and next year and Cooper Flagg and all the great prospects that are coming. They don't want to use their assets to get a player like Brandon Ingram who's going to make them 4 or 5 or 6 wins better, wins that they maybe don't want at the expense of their lottery odds. This is going to be a tough situation for New Orleans to wiggle out from, and they just feel like a team that made one big move with DeJounte Murray and felt like they had another big move coming, and it hasn't happened yet.
And I feel like there's some recency issues based off of the playoffs because he only averaged 14 points per game on 35% shooting. I always feel like I'm so excited for him every year to take the next step to fulfill potential BI, but it seems like he sometimes leaves things to be desired. While there may be some questions about the 5 out in New Orleans, there aren't any questions about that center position, the actual 5 position in Denver. But that doesn't mean that the Nuggets don't have concerns. The 2023 champs got bounced out of the playoffs in the second round, and then they saw, I love this guy, the glue guy, KCP head down to Orlando. Russell Westbrook, though, is on the way, but that doesn't feel like the cure to what Bontemps sees as their biggest issue, 3-point shooting. So, Zach, what is your biggest concern for Denver?
Exactly that. They were last in 3-point attempts last season, and one of their best 3-point shooters, not a big high-volume guy in KCP, he left. In his spot is going to be Christian Braun, who's less proven as a 3-point shooter. Russell Westbrook is not a 3-point shooter, and I'll just leave it at that. There's a certain